Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Today's video is all about a spawning habitat. So we're on this lake right now. The water temps are absolutely perfect for spawning, low 60s, mid 60s, and the last week has been pretty warm. So I know that fish are up spawning, at least the males are up, making the beds and starting to protect the beds. And so what I want to do is I want to be able to figure out where those fish are bedding without actually sight fishing for them. You know, this lake is pretty shallow, so it's hard for me to actually get way up there to see the beds, but I can get a pretty good idea where these fish are going to spawn based on the cover in these areas. So the first thing that you want to do is find a good spawning area, spawning bay, spawning pocket, but then it's all about those little high percentage areas that you want to cast to. So let's get started. I'm going to kind of share some of the things that I look for during the spawn. Today we're fishing, the Z-Man ZINKERZ, Texas rigged on a Hayabusa 956. I'm using 12-pound test Seaguar Gold label with a Smackdown main line, and I'm doing this on spinning gear. Okay, and all the products are going to be in the description below, but this is like a perfect time of year to be throwing a stick bait like this. Usually I'm using a wacky rig, but today, because we got a lot of algae and vegetation, we're using a Texas rig. But you want to fish techniques that you can work in an area a little bit longer. So something that stays in the strike zone, like a stick bait, wacky rigged or Texas rigged, is a big deal. All right, so here we're kind of coming up to a good, what I would consider a good spawning area. So the first thing that you gotta figure out is like where you're gonna start, the general area that likely will hold some spawning fish. And the biggest key to that is when you're looking at maps or satellite imagery, is to look for areas that are protected from a north wind. That seems to be a pretty consistent theme when finding good spawning areas, is like bays and pockets and creeks that are protected from that cold north wind during the spring. And then another key is finding those creeks and pockets and bays that have sloping, more shallow contours, so more gradually sloping contours. So there's plenty of good depth for those fish. But once you find the general type of area that, that is suitable for spawning, it's all about like making those precise casts, because the fish's strike zone is limited to the size of their bed generally. They're not gonna go 5 or 10 foot off the bed to attack a bait. You wanna make a very precise cast, and a lot of times I'm not sight fishing for bass, when I'm just trying to go catch some fish during this time of year. I'm not looking for the fish or the beds and then fishing visually for them. I'm just trying to make high percentage casts to areas where I think there's a bed. And to do that, you've got to understand like what these fish's motivation is this time of year. These fish are going to be on the beds and they're going to be protecting the eggs. And so look for cover that's going to help them protect the eggs. So one thing that is super common to see is for a fish to make a bed and protect a bed around some type of hard cover. So dock posts, lay down wood, a stump, a trash can on the bottom, a cinder block, a boulder. Anything that creates a scenario where the fish can fan out a bed next to an object, put their back to that object, and protect just what's in front of them without having to do circles and run bluegill and crawfish and whatever else is trying to get the eggs off the bed. That's what you're looking for. So like up here, we've got some laydowns in the back of this pocket. Keep note of these laydowns, because as soon as we get in there, I am about 90% sure I'm gonna get a bite. And so that's the reason why hard cover is so important this time of year. And I say hard cover, as a loose term, because you go to a lake like Okeechobee or the Kissimmee chain, or you know, you go up north to fisheries that maybe don't have like wood in the water, but they have like reeds, like a line of reeds, maybe a little patch of reeds. That is something that I consider hardcover and really good spawning habitat for bass this time of year, because you go to Okeechobee, the primary pattern when they're spawning is to cast your presentation around those patches of reeds, because that's where those fish are spawning. So it doesn't matter if it's reeds, if it's wood, or if it's just trash on the bottom, or rocks, dock posts. As long as it's an object that those fish can you know, create their bed around to help them protect the bed, that's all you're looking for. So we're gonna get back here into the back of this pocket. These cypress trees actually look pretty good. The only issue is that there's not a lot of water around these cypress trees on this particular lake, but we're gonna actually try it anyways. You don't need that much depth to catch them this time of year. All right, that one's really shallow, like inches. But anyways, we're gonna get back here to where there's some laydowns, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about, because I guarantee there's some fish on these. You know, and cypress trees are actually excellent spawning cover. If you've got a lake that's got a lot of cypress trees and they've got enough water for those fish to create a bed, like that is like prime time spawning type habitat is cypress trees, because the cypress knees, the way that the cypress trunk kind of spreads out and creates these little, like, you know, these little notches, these little cradles, is like perfect. I just wish that this lake had depth underneath these cypress trees. All right, so we're almost to where I really think I'm gonna be able to catch a spawning fish. You see this lay down directly in front of me here. You got the root system, and then you got the trunk. Right where the roots turn into the trunk of the tree, I bet we're gonna catch a fish. Let's see, but you know, that's like high percentage, because that where the roots turn into the trunk, that's a perfect little spot for that bed to be. Let's give it a shot. And power poles are pretty critical this time of year. Oh, there's a bite. Ah! I promise that was a bite. That fish will probably eat again too. Dang it. Little nipper. Little tail nipper. Let's skip it in there, get him all wound up. Come on. Oh, there he is. Come on. Ah, little guy. But what did I tell you? I mean, little male. Look at him peeing. Little male, and he's probably either built or is building his bed right at the base of that tree. Typical. Because that's like the perfect area. He doesn't have to protect that much of the bed. Let's see if there's another fish right there. Maybe the female. I mean, there'll be other parts of this tree, like they could be all the way to the end there. But to me, like that's the prime spot, is right at the base of the tree. I'm seeing some pretty good objects up here that I guarantee some fish are spawning on. You know, and even though the best objects that I think that the fish are going to choose first are going to be larger, wider, because they're going to help protect a larger portion of the bed, fish will, if there's not those large objects, they'll spawn on a stick up that is that wide. You know, they just want to create their bed around some type of object. And so they're not too terribly picky, but like laydowns like this that we've got coming up, I mean, that's pretty legit. And there's some cypress trees here. There's like one stick up right here that I just cast to that doesn't have a fish on it. All right, come on, come on. Or I'm just eagerly waiting to get up to this piece of wood. Really all this wood, because this flat back here is like super shallow. And I know that there's gonna be fish spawning around a bunch of that wood, almost every piece. It's so important this time of year, like when I'm fishing on lakes that have a lot of stumps, it's really important to have good polarized glasses just so you can see those darker objects underneath the surface, because you know, some of the best cover isn't even going to show above the water like these laydowns are. You know, it's just kind of you know, just below the surface. I saw something kind of push up shallow behind this one, but I bet there's something around it, around this root wad. There he is. Ah, dang it. Let's see if we can catch him again. I didn't feel the tap, so I wasn't prepared when he hit. There he is. There we go. But that's one of the beautiful things about the spawn, is that these fish, their sole motivation is to protect the young, protect the eggs. So like, more so than any other time of the year, even if you get a hook into a fish for a second and then it comes off, you could probably still make a cast back and catch that fish eventually. So, but that was pretty typical. I mean, it was right at the end of that tree there, right at the root wad. Pretty much guarantee that that fish was spawning. I'm going to change out my ZINKERZ real quick. Do a new one. But I would wager that there's one on that root wad over there too. I love it this time of year. It is so much fun to call your shots. All right, there's actually something that pushed up shallow back there, so I'm gonna see if there's a bass spawning. That's another thing you gotta look for, is just, you know, fish creating little wakes or nervous water. Just because they're like busy pushing bluegill off of their bed constantly. Bluegill and other types of, you know, pesky fish. Right there. Oh, there's a bite. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Oh no, he came off. She came off, because that was a pretty big one. Ah, oh, heartbreaker. All right, let's put the power poles down and see if we can't get that one to bite again. That was a heartbreaker. Not a great cast. I mean, this looks pretty textbook right here. Got some good wood, shallow water. I bet there's a fish there. There he is. Oh, there we go. I'm telling you, it can be just as easy as this to make the perfect cast and catch fish during the spawn. I mean, you know, the fish become very predictable during the spawn, And once you learn what type of stuff these fish are going to spawn around, and the list goes on and on. I mean, it could be a 5-gallon bucket that's, you know, just sitting on the bottom. But the common theme is that these fish are going to create their beds around some type of structure on the bottom, some type of cover that is on the bottom that allows them to just protect a portion of the bed versus all of it. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to give you guys a real quick tutorial on what I look for in a spawning area to be able to make a very precise cast in a high percentage spot. So pay attention to the hard cover this time of year. It's really, really important. And if you guys have any questions at all, make sure you drop a comment below. If you want me to do a video on a topic of your choosing, definitely drop a comment. Other than that, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm gonna have the product links in the description below. And I'm gonna see you out on the water. Trust the process.